Good morning. This is Dr. Marina Paldas, Associate Professor of Department of Industrial Biotechnology. Today, I'm going to talk about peptide-coupled nanoparticles. So, nanomaterials possesses novel physico-chemical properties which is distinct from those of conventional bulk materials. So, why it is having the unique physical and chemical properties? Because it is ultra small size, that is a nano dimension, and high surface area to volume ratio. These two main characteristics making more advantageous in the development of engineered materials that can uniquely interact with a variety of nano and micro-sized biomaterials. So the non-biological characteristics of nanoparticles, it will introduce novel properties. What are they? So for example, nanoparticles absorbing and emitting near infrared like around 700 to 1100 nanometer light, which have been actively utilized in vivo imaging due to the advantages of deep imaging, depth and high spatial resolution. So in this region, if you apply this nanoparticle will be illuminating some fluorescence light. It will be specific for some sort of nanoparticles, not for all. Apart from that, some nanoparticles will produce reactive oxygen species, that is ROS. We know that when in our body that metabolic reactions will be there in mitochondria, especially electron transport chain, there will be producing so many free radicals when the production of the ATP process will be going on. So these free radicals will be not good for our health. That what they'll do, they'll be binding with the macromolecules like carbohydrate, nucleic acid and protein, and they'll inactivate them. So the same concept when you are using these nanoparticles, they also can produce this ROS upon receiving the light energy. And what they'll do, which can oxidize the biomacromolecules and subsequently induce the cell ablation. That means photodynamic therapy. So if you take these nanoparticles near the disease cell, and if you apply the light energy, they'll be producing ROS, and these ROS will bind to the macromolecules and they'll go for the cell death process. In addition, the absorbed light energy can be converted to heat and as well as sound energy using the photothermal and photoacoustic effects of nanoparticles. It will provide a non-invasive treatment like different type of diseases, for example, cancer. Apart from that, we are having the magnetic nanoparticles, which are another promising class enabling the remote and active treatment of diseases. Responding to external magnetic stimuli, magnetic nanoparticles can be selectively accumulated at a target site in the biological system. That means we can use this type of nanoparticles in vivo studies. And it will release the guest molecules, that means the drugs, in a dosage control fashion. Several in vitro studies have shown that magnetic nanoparticles displaying multiple binding ligands effectively discriminate target biomaterials from a mixture of solution. Furthermore, upon exposure to the magnetic field, the arrangement of magnetic nanoparticles on its surface can be controlled in various ways. So it will result in the use of the magnetic nanoparticles for the development of novel cell culture scaffold. So if you know the disease area, and if you inject the nanoparticles without applying the external magnetic field, we can accumulate all the magnetic nanoparticles surrounding the disease cell. And then we can apply near infrared energy, or we can go for the ROS mechanism and it will go for the cell death therapy. So now we are going to look after the peptides. So peptides have attracted a great deal of interest in biomedical fields because it has a novel material that can both exhibit protein functionalities and possesses a high degree of modularity in molecular design. Now, if you combine this peptide and nanoparticle, it is called peptide nanoparticle conjugates, that is PNCS, or peptide coupled nanoparticles. They have been recently emerged as a versatile tool for the biomedical applications. Because for both cases, like for the peptide, if you take, or the nanoparticles will be taking, they will be having some limitations. But if you combine these both things, the synergism between the two promising classes of materials, that will allow enhanced control over their biological behaviors, overcoming intrinsic limitations of the individual materials. So now there are two approaches. So discovery of artificial bioactive peptides can be broadly divided into two categories. So peptides we can get in two methods. One, that is called the bottom-up approach, where the construction and screening of peptide libraries from random amino acid composition within a certain macromolecular topology, where from the peptide library screening. Another method is that is called the top-down approach. So there, the isolation of the bioactive sequences from natural protein based on their three-dimensional structures. So which can go as a structure-based design. So if you take the peptides, either it is from the top-down approach or it is from the bottom-up approach. Like bottom-up approach means where we can join the amino acids with the peptide bonds and we can get our desired peptide. Or from the top down approach means we know that where we have the bulk material and we are cutting down and making a small nano dimension. So from the big protein polymers, we can get the small molecules, small peptide sections, and with that we can attach our desired nanoparticles, and this peptide nanoparticle conjugate we can use for drug delivery, protein interaction inhibition, molecular imaging, and liquid biopsy. So the peptide library screening enables the facile development of effective binders against a wide range of target molecules. So these target molecules may be a smaller molecular compounds, maybe another peptides, maybe DNAs, RNAs, cells means especially the disease cells and inorganic materials. So the top-down method has an advantage over the bottom-up approach. What? As the peptide sequence aiming to a specific binding site on a biomacromolecules that can be discovered based on their structural properties. So the sport peptide will be having some limitations. So what? First is that they are lower target binding affinity and selectivity than proteins, because as we are cutting down the main protein and we bringing a small peptide, the binding site may be eliminated. Okay, so the binding site, if it's eliminated, it cannot bind the specific selective targets. Another one, that vulnerability to protease digestion in the biological environments, because as it will be very small peptide, that the amount of the protease enzyme will be more and there will be chances to degrade that peptide. Apart from that, short circulating half-lives, because as it will be having the protease and it will be they will be exposed to those things, so they are the lifetime will be become less. So that's why when it will be requirement for frequent administration to sustain their efficacy. Apart from that, the inability to maintain innate folding structures were isolated from protein context, which significantly limits their function. So many researchers have found that the incorporation of peptides with the non-biological materials such as small molecular compounds, metal chelates, polymers, and hydrogels is a promising approach to addressing the intrinsic drawbacks of the peptides. So particularly among these also they have some limitations, but the nanoparticles have shown their potential to serve as conjugate scaffolds that not only improve the functionality of peptides but also implement abiotic characteristics, often resulting in synergistic effects. As a result, peptide nanoparticle conjugates have been considered a promising platform for a variety of biomedical use. So the peptide nanoparticle conjugation offers enhanced control over the structural properties of nanostructures, allowing facile modification to overall shape, dimension, and size of the conjugate through engineering nanoparticle scaffolds tailored for intended applications. So first, if we decide that application, based on that, we can functionalize the nanoparticles with the drugs, with the polymers, and definitely with the peptides. And this one will give the better option for the biomedical applications, because the nanoparticles will be the smaller size, nano dimension, which can easily penetrate inside the cell as well as the inside the nucleus. So there is an important aspects of that protein nanoparticle conjugate that is a multivalency. So what is a multivalency? That most interaction in biological systems are based on non-covalent interactions such as hydrogen bonds, ionic bonds, van der Waals forces, pi stacking forces, and hydrophobic interactions. Although the individual bindings are relatively weak, but their cooperative action enables strong binding kinetics based on the principle that the collective binding state depends exponentially onto the number of individual binding pairs. So even though we know that when you are talking about the DNA, like deoxyribonucleic acid, that all the purine and pyrimidine vessels are joined together between the two polynucleotide chain by hydrogen bond. We know that the individual hydrogen bonds are weak, but when the number of hydrogen bonds are more, the more amount of bonds are giving the stability to a structure. Similarly, here also, if you have the only one peptide, how it will be binding? Apart from that, if you have a nanoparticle, there we can attach the so many peptides because the size of the nanoparticles are very small. So as the size is small, its surface area more. So as the surface area is more, we can attach more number of peptides. So more number of peptides if we attach, it can go and bind to the number of cells at the same time. Okay, so multivalent, that's what it is called, and the affinity towards the cell will also increase. So comparison between, you have showed that between the monovalent and the multivalent interaction. So the multivalent property of protein nanoparticle conjugate is a powerful tool for controlling polyvalent macromolecular association that will be frequently occur in nature. So for example, gold nanoparticle peptide triazole conjugates inactivate HIV-1 by disrupting the interaction between the host receptor protein and trimeric envelope glycoprotein, that is ENV spikes of the virus. So that as the gold nanoparticles diameter and the peptide valency increase, the antiviral potency of the protein nanoparticle conjugates is greatly enhanced. So if you allow only the peptide, the efficiency or the success of the treatment will be not that much more better if you add the protein nanoparticle conjugate. So this implies that a sufficient quantity of peptides, triazoles, the attachment of extra functionalization over a large area is required for effective interaction with the multiple spikes on the viral surface. So protein misfolding diseases, including Alzheimer's disease, are also difficult to target with conventional therapies. So decorated gold nanoparticles, like we can functionalize the nanoparticles with the peptides, including two inhibitory peptide sequence for A beta aggregation, like amyloid beta, the precipitate that will be formed in case of the Alzheimer's disease. Like we have to take the peptide inhibitor like VVIA, or we can take LPFFD in order to develop a multivalent inhibitor for the aggregation of amyloid beta proteins. So these two peptide sequences were conjugated onto the gold nanoparticle surfaces and ordered or oriented in optimal conformation to effectively inhibit A beta amyloid protein beta protein aggregation. So utilizing the two different peptides on a single nanoparticles was highly synergistic because here also you can see that there are two peptides. So two peptides is possible because of it is the nanoparticle, because the surface is more, so the two peptides can easily attach on that. So as well as it will prevent the amyloid beta protein aggregation more strongly with less cytotoxicity compared to the free peptides. Because when the nanoparticles and the gold nanoparticles and peptides we are attaching, we know that the peptide may not be affecting the body. It will not show any type of side effect. Even the gold nanoparticles also inert material, so it will also not show any type of side effect in the in vivo system. So in addition to the enhanced binding strength, multivalent interaction also provide improved selectivity by exploiting the density of interaction modules on a surface to recognize target polyvalent surface. So if you see that in this image, you have shown that instead of that 4 attachment when it is coming, where it is the 2 peptides is there in the left hand side picture, it is will not possible. But in case of when the 4 peptides are attached, the selectivity will be better. The presence of the multiple binding site plays a role in allowing the strong multivalent bindings and in increasing statistical opportunities for multiple monovalent binding events to occur. So the exposure of peptides in multiple directions result in greater opportunities to encounter the binding partner. So at the same time, not only the binding will be there, at the same time there will be so many functions will be done at the simultaneously. During the dissociation process of post-binding, the peptides on nanoparticle scaffolds express many rebinding sites, which can increase the retention time of target materials on the surface. known as the statistical rebinding mechanism. So this will allow the prolonged release or controlled release of the drug from the nanoparticle surface. Furthermore, co-conjugation with different types of peptides and other biological or non-biological materials offer additional functionalities for the hybrid materials, such as immune response evasion, theranostics. Theranostics means when we are using one radioactive to leveling one radioactive molecule, another radioactive molecules. So that is called the theranostics, and a stimulus responsive property and multi-target directed treatment with a single material. Hence, displayed on a nanostructure surface, peptides can potentially compete with or outperform natural protein despite their low individual affinity and selectivity. So now we told that there are some drawbacks of the peptides, because once we are cutting down or making small from the protein to peptide, the selectivity, binding affinity will be reduced. But once we are attaching with the nanoparticles, the selectivity will be increasing. So nanoparticles present a versatile scaffold to target biomolecular surfaces via complementary interactions. So most straightforward approach to fabricate the peptide based nanostructure is self-assembly. So self-assembly means where the nanoparticles and the protein will be automatically, they'll be making the conjugate, and that type of bonding will make the feasible for the preparation of this peptide coupled nanoparticles. The spontaneity in the thermodynamic process allow the construction of nanoscale constructs having precisely regulated shape, size, and composition. Because we know that the thermodynamically favorable means when the system is going for the disorder to order. So if you nanoparticle and protein, if you are functionalizing, there will be two approaches. One, the modular control of protein structure and function, and one, the direct protein nanoparticle self-assembly. So the formation of nanoparticle protein complexes is commonly referred as nanoparticle protein corona, that means NPPC, or peptide nanoparticle conjugate, PNCS. So NPPC can influence the biological reactivity of the nanoparticles. So nanoparticle will be showing some sort of biological properties which will be enhanced by attachment with the concerned peptides. So peptide nanoparticle conjugates have recently emerged as a versatile tool for biomedical applications, mainly in the cellular leveling and imaging, drug delivery, nucleic acid delivery. Success of the drug delivery system development depends on the investigation of various approaches towards targeting drugs to the tumor cells using their conjugated form with carriers and targeting moieties. So if you functionalize properly the nanoparticles, it will give the better result. So first we'll talk about the targeted drug delivery. So selectively, the targeted drug delivery or selective delivery of the pharmaceutical agent to the target site in the body remains as a major challenge. So peptides have recently emerged as a powerful arsenal that may provide modular selectivity to the drug delivery system, warranting enhanced performance for the potential treatment of many serious health problems such as cancer and brain diseases. Peptides specifically interact with the different type of biological system, allowing them to be applied in a multitude of scenarios for effective results. However, the short in vivo half-life and suboptimal biodistribution and pharmacokinetics of the peptide have hindered their widespread application in drug delivery. A simple approach to overcoming the problems of the current peptide-based delivery system is to combine them with nanoparticles. So upon functionalization with the peptides as a targeting agents, nanoparticles can be engineered to selectively deliver the drugs to the target site. In addition to their capability to encapsulate and protect therapeutic agents, increasing the plasma circulation time. So it can retain for longer time as it is in a nanoparticle in vivo system. As a result, researchers have conjugated different targeting peptide on different types of nanoparticles to provide more efficient and adaptable drug delivery system. One of the specific application of peptide mediated targeting is the delivery of cargo to the nucleus of the cells. So delivery to the nucleus is particularly difficult. Why? Due to the many barriers that must be overcome once inside the cell, let alone targeting to the correct cell in the first place. So most particles enter the cell via endocytosis, so there is no problem, and are thus encapsulated in large vesicles, headed towards a lysosome for degradation. They must have some means of endosomal escape to avoid being destroyed before they can reach the nucleus. Because it is easy to enter, to penetrate to the cell, but not easy to the nucleus. Once this is achieved, the particle must bypass the protection afforded to the nucleus. The nucleus is protected by a double phospholipid membrane accessible mainly through nuclear pore complexes, that is called NPCs, which have varied diameters ranging from approximately 20 to 150 nanometer. So not only the particle be small enough to make it through, it must also have a corresponding nuclear localization signal, that is called NLS. So which act as a key card to allow the access to the NPC. In vitro utilization Mesoporous silica nanoparticles conjugate with TAT peptide for the delivery of doxorubicin DOX to the nucleus of a HeLa cells have done, and their results show that particles smaller than the 50 nanometer were able to achieve TAT peptide mediate nuclear uptake. Because once we are making the shorter peptide from the protein, the size is coming in the nano dimension, and when the particles also very small. So silica nanoparticles where it will be conjugated with the peptide, the dimension it is coming around 50 nanometer, which will be very easy to enter into the nucleus, and the continuous release of the dogs into the nucleus over a 24-hour of incubation period. So another approach where a multi-peptide conjugated gold nanoparticles based system used for this purpose. So here not only the single peptide, the use of two short peptides, okay, they are introduced for the cellular endocytosis and for nuclear targeting of the particle is more effective than attempting to use a single lengthy sequence. So the 25 nanometer gold nanoparticles was able to enter the nucleus to in 80% of HEP G2 cells when incubated for 2 hours at 37 degrees centigrade. So based on the application, which cell we are going to target, we can synthesize, we can manipulate the synthesis protocol, and we can tailor the nanoparticle size, not only the size, even the morphology also. The utilization of the 30 nanometer gold nanoparticles base system conjugated with an NLS peptide, although their aim was to deliver siRNA for gene silencing. The complex was able to successfully inhibit the thymine kinase 1 protein and thymine kinase 1 mRNA dominance in vitro and reduce tumor growth by 250% when compared to a control for an in vivo mouse model. So peptide have been also found to be useful for assisting nanoparticles crossing other physical barriers, including the blood-brain barrier. Okay, this is a major barrier where we cannot like release a drug or target the cells. That represents a major hurdle for effective delivery of pharmaceutical agents to the brain. So the BBB means that blood-brain barrier act as a shield surrounding blood vessels with access to the brain. Its main purpose is to prevent the non-essential substances from reaching the delicate system behind it. So the researchers have been using peptide to help nanoparticles transport across a brain-blood barrier. So for example, G23 peptide conjugated polymerisms is used for both in vitro as well as the in vivo drug deliveries across the BBB. The 165 nanometer nanoparticles utilize G23 peptide to target the ganglioside of GM1 and GT1B receptors expressed on ACME-C D3 cells. So that is a human BBB model, and which will be enabling 4 times greater transcytokine capacity over the polymerisms without G23 peptide. Next, we'll talk about the molecular imaging. So the molecular imaging provides a visual information on the biological process with a high resolution. So it will enable the detection of pathological cells and the tissues, helping both the researchers and the clinicians understand the status of the disease in terms of their progression and responsiveness to the treatment. So here not only we can the diagnosis disease, we can see how the treatment is giving the result. So the recent advances in nanobiotechnology further accelerated the development of molecular imaging by enhancing the targeting efficiency of imaging probes. So among the many agents that have been used to provide selectivity, peptides have been successfully employed as a novel nanoprobes due to their long-term stability, target specificity, and rapid clearance from the bloodstream. So the modular nature of such peptide allows to be integrated with a variety of imaging modalities. So which will result in remarkable outcomes in animal models and preclinical studies. So despite their advantages, peptides often suffer from weak binding affinity, as well as instability and faster renal clearance due to their smaller size. Because when we are cutting down, I told you that the binding site may be eliminated. So it may not bind, or even though it is binding to the target cell, the bonding is not stronger. So these problems can be addressed by conjugation them to the nanoparticle. So instead of the one peptide, we can attach the multi-peptides for a same nanoparticles. So nanoparticles will be the single, the peptides, number of peptides will be more. So which have been frequently utilized to improve the pharmacokinetics of the targeting peptides. So nanoparticles can be selected to fit a variety of target size and imaging modalities, making them an ideal delivery platform. A major advantage that peptide nanoparticle complexes provide is their ability to enhance the target to background signal. This could be accomplished by conjugation of multiple imaging probes onto a nanoparticle surface or by an increased surface density of the specific peptides. So the conjugation of different types of peptides along with therapeutic agents would enable PNCs to be applied for multi-target directed nanotherapeutics. So the use of PNCs as imaging nanoprobes for different applications, including near-infrared like NIR fluorescence imaging, computed tomography like CT, positron emission tomography like PET, or magnetic resonance imaging like MRI, and multi-modal imaging. So the NIR fluorescence imaging utilizes imaging agent with emission spectra in between 700 to 1100 nanometer. So NIR light penetrates deeper into the tissue than the visible light, allowing enhance the tissue imaging. So for an interesting thing here is this NIR will be not affecting the normal healthy tissue. It can easily penetrate. But where the nanoparticle will be accumulated surrounding the disease cell, that only will be visualizing. So healthy cells we can't see, it will be visible displayed as a dark color or the no color, and where the disease cell will be showing as a fluorescence bright color. So recently PNCs have been applied for NIR imaging, allowing sensitive detection of abnormal tissue with high specificity. So the fluorescent nanoparticles consisting of cyclic peptides was developed that were co-assembled with zinc 2+ ions to generate strong NIR fluorescent signals. So this imaging agent was further modified with alpha V and beta 3 integrin specific RGD peptides, which will be selectively image the tumor site alone. This tumor specific imaging agent was highly photostable and showed a narrow emission spectrum, which will be resulting in clear NIR fluorescence signal from the target site. Another one is benzobis 1,2,5 thiazole. This is a fluorophores have also been exploited for NIR imaging. The fluorophores were coupled with peptides that are specific to gastrin-releasing peptide receptor like GRPR. Both in vitro and in vivo data demonstrated that these conjugates effectively accumulate at the target site with a high target to background signal. So now we'll talk about the CT scans. CT scan rely on multiple X-ray beams. Okay, so they will be generating cross-sectional images of bones, blood vessels, and soft tissues inside the body. So the gold nanoparticles are one of the most commonly used imaging agents for CT scan. So I told you that based on the application, we have to choose the nanoparticles. All nanoparticles we can't use for any applications. So for the CT scan, we have to only go for the gold nanoparticles. So due to their high external attenuation capability, we are using the gold nanoparticles. And not only that, it is having the biocompatible nature, stability, and the versatility enable gold nanoparticles to be utilized in a wide range of applications. So the conjugated with the peptides, gold nanoparticles have been employed as selective CT contrast agent, because we know that when you are going for this type of scanning or imaging process for the diagnosis of disease, we are using the chemical dye. So this type of chemical dye, definitely it is a chemical in nature, they may show some sort of side effects. But this, the nanoparticles with the peptide, like peptides only, it will take the cells to the correct disease places, targeted places. The nanoparticles will show the fluorescence. So this fluorescence will help you to find out the disease without any side effect. So recently, a core shell structured nanoparticles composite of polylactic-glycolic acid with nanoparticles is developed. So these nanoparticles was conjugated with the glioma targeted peptide that enhance selective cellular uptake of that PLGA nanoparticles, so resulting in increased tumor recognition and improved resolution of the CT image. The only the thing we have to do here, that we have to functionalize a nanoparticle with the proper targeting molecules. So if you are functionalized with the proper targeting molecules, it will go and attach only to the target site, not the non-target cells. So which will help to differentiate between the healthy and non-healthy cells. And not only that, the amount of the effect, okay, the disease affecting area also we can find out with the intensity of the fluorescence. Okay. So the PNC based approach has been also applied for visualizing cerebrovascular thrombin. So the glycol chitosan coated nanoparticles, that is GC gold nanoparticles, were incorporated with fibrin specific peptide for direct CT based imaging for cerebrovascular thrombin. So this some sort of clot we can find out very easily. These novel imaging agents selectively accumulated to the target site and were retained in the site for a longer period of time, around up to 3 weeks. So compared to the GC gold nanoparticles without the peptide, okay, so it is giving the better result, and the improved selectivity and the longer imaging capability would allow this system to the detect short-term recurrence without additional any injections. So the MRI generates the high resolution three-dimensional image, we know that, of organs and tissues using radio waves and magnetic fields. So the magnetic nanoparticles have been utilized as AMR contrast agent. So, and their complexation with the targeting peptide has been used to image specific organs. And their complexation with targeting peptide has been used to image specific the targeted cells. So the MNP conjugated with RGD peptide selectively targeted cells that highly express alpha V and beta 3 integrin. Their in vitro MRI result confirmed that the selectivity of the conjugates were maintained in U87Mg tumor bearing mice. So the magnetic nanoparticles have been also conjugated with polymers for enhanced targeting and prolonged detection. So for example, that RGD peptide conjugated super paramagnetic polymeric missiles like SPPM, that will be more frequently used for conjugates. This is a nanoprobe that have been used for selective detection of integrin over pressing the cells. So these nanoprobes were found to selectively accumulated into the tumor site, resulting in detection of the MRI signals from the brain, lungs, and the breast tumor bearing mice within 5 minutes of post injection. So the not only it is making the better result, it is making the fast also. So the peptide based nanoparticles conjugates consist of a drug molecule, an enzyme level or pH sensitive spacer sequence, a biodegradable peptide carrier, and the targeting moieties. So that may be the nanoparticles which were able to bind cell surface receptors and can be internalized by receptor mediated endocytosis. So here if you see this image, with the nanoparticles we have attached the dendrimers or antibodies. So antibodies, we know that it will be very specific to the antigen or single stranded DNA. We can attach the carbohydrate, we can attach the fluorescent dyes, that fluorescent or fluorophores, polyethylene glycol, some polymers which will help to release, unload the drug in a proper place, and peptides definitely, and tumor markers which will be helped for the imaging, aptamers, siRNAs. So everything will be, and as well as the drug. So everything will be functionalized based on the requirement. Okay, so what type of application, if it is a drug delivery, if it is a bioimaging, or if it is for the therapeutics. So based on that, we have to functionalize the nanoparticle, and as well as I told you that the synthesis of the nanoparticles is also important, where you are targeting the cells. So based on that, we can manipulate the size also. So the mechanism of the bioconjugation of the peptides to nanoparticles. So what type of the binding will be there between the nanoparticles and the this peptides. So the primary aim during this bioconjugation is to uniformly display the peptide on the nanoparticle surface. And at the same time, if their active regions are clearly extended away and available for the activity. So the peptides will be only attaching, okay, the nanoparticles. It will do its work. It will not show any type of activity will be not, it will be decreased. But at the same time that it will be reaching the target site, and it will be that carry the nanoparticles. It can enter the proper targeted cells. So ideally the chemistry would attach the peptide to a nanoparticles in one of the following ways. So it should be a homogeneous manner. So all the peptides will be homogeneously will be functionalized with control over its final orientation, with control over its distance from the nanoparticle surface, with control over ratio or valence on the nanoparticle surface, that is number of peptides on the nanoparticles surface. So here I have given some sort of interaction, how the nanoparticles and the peptide will be attached. So the attachment can be done by the different ways. First one is the electrostatic interaction, where the electrostatic means that is the opposite charges. So the opposite charges on the surface of the nanoparticles and the peptide to mediate charge-charge based nanoparticle peptide assembly. The nanoparticle must present the requisite positively or negatively charged surface, with the peptide having the opposite characteristics. So that means if the nanoparticle is negative charge, the peptide should be positive charge. So like that type of combination we have to choose. Another one is direct interaction, where which will involve the peptide motifs that can bind or to coordinate with the nanoparticle surface with high affinity. So we know that like interaction of the free thiol groups with the surface of the gold nanoparticles, and that high affinity coordination of polyhistidine tracks with nanoparticles like quantum dots with Zen2 plus bearing surfaces. Next one is secondary interactions. So this class of binding of domain by the biological chemistry. So here secondary interaction utilizing specific ligand receptor interaction. Okay, where we can see that for a very common example is biotin avidin. That means the streptavidin, which will be interacting pair. So we have to keep the biotin in the nanoparticles, or the avidin in the peptides. So or the opposite. So biotin avidin, if you bring together, they will be joining automatically, simultaneously, spontaneously. So that's what that is called the self-assembly process. Next one is a covalent linkage to surface ligands. So the covalent attachment linkages utilize classical bioconjugation chemistry such as ETC, that 1-ethyl-3,3-dimethyl amino profile carbamide hydrochloride. So this will be base coupling of amines to carboxyls and NHS in hydroxysuccinamide, and maleimide mediated conjugation to amines and thiols. So the number of peptides combined with the nanoparticles have shown their promising approach or the promising area for the drug delivery, inhibition of pathogenic biomolecular interactions, molecular imaging. But despite of their potential, clinical translation of PNC still remain elusive due to some following reasons. So there will be some limitations. What are they? First, the PNC behaviors in physiological conditions such as bloodstream and intracellular space have not been fully understood. Second, the peptides are still vulnerable to the enzyme degradation even on nanometer surfaces. So you will require additional protection strategies to maintain their functions without increasing the structural and composition complexity of the conjugate. Third, the potential immunogenicity of the engineered protein nanoparticle conjugate should be addressed, which is a common obstacle for in vivo as well as the clinical applications. Lastly, the covalent conjugation with the nanoparticles or other functional moieties often results in the loss of the biological function of the peptides. So in the current research is going on this for the limitations, and which will be overcome very soon.